I said, bring it on, MRFer, come on. And he just texted me back with a little smiley face and said, calm down, Junior.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. And once you're done, leave a comment down below and I just might end up responding. Once you make your way out of the WWE, all bets are off. That seems to be the general rule when it comes to wrestlers, at least. While your everyday Walmart employee could probably talk Walmart to their manager's face without fear, WWE, bit more stringent when it comes to keeping their bullshit on lockdown. I'm D Wicked from Watch WWE, and here's 10 shocking things that former WWE wrestlers said after leaving the company. Number 10, Dean's return was screwed twice. Dean Ambrose making this list should not surprise anyone, given the fact that he went on Talk as Jericho just a few months after his release and very publicly put the company on blast for about an hour of the podcast's hour-and-a-half duration. Among the things he said, perhaps the worst was the fact he openly talked to Vince about hating who he was on television, the character he portrayed, and how even despite that, he still went out there every night and made work. In return, WWE decided to constantly screw him even more. For example, when returning alongside Seth Rollins in mid-2018, he was promised to be able to return at SummerSlam only to get stuck returning the week prior, last minute. This was a shitty move on their part, but maybe even worse was taking away the surprise factor of his return. Wrestlers crave that big return pop, and Dean had been waiting 9 months for it, and WWE instead scripted Seth to spoil the return seconds before it happened.
I figure I ought to have a lunatic in mind.
Number 9, Bully Ray got screwed. The Dudleys, Bubba, and Devon returned to WWE's tag team scene in 2015 to come help put over all the young talent there and give them the veterans rub. Except, the Dudleys were still kind of on top of their game and didn't need to be relegated to the jobber status. At least Bubba definitely was, going as Bully Ray in Impact. Bubba had crafted a fantastic singles character for himself that was supposed to be brought over to the WWE. According to Bubba, they canceled it last minute the very night before he was supposed to re-debut due to fearing the advertisers being worried about a character literally named Bully, which is a terrible reason to cut the legs from a guy and supposedly played a pretty big part in his way out of the company.
Hey, wait a minute! What the hell? No, for God's sake, no!
Number 8, Jericho and KO were the main event. Going into WrestleMania 33, easily the best storyline with the most hype, build, and anticipation was Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens. And just a few months before WrestleMania, the scheduled match was for Jericho and KO to main event the show of shows with the Universal Championship on the line, with Y2J walking out with the big red jam. In a very short duration of time, plans changed so drastically that Goldberg ended up taking the title off of KO at Fastlane, and then Jericho was thrown the United States title and they were bumped all the way down to the second match, a position that Jericho claimed to be one of the worst, and he hated it so much that he cited it as one of the big frustrations that inspired him to leave. Number 7, Alberto Del Rio's locker room comments. We should all already know about the racist social media manager and how Del Rio ended up being fired an entire month before the dude he was defending himself against. And yeah, that's real but we already kind of know that one. Perhaps less and more just proper surprising were his comments on the roster itself back in 2015 when he had just dipped from the company. Del Rio, a former MMA fighter who knows a thing or two about the real variants of these kayfabed moves, claims that 70% of the roster had never been in a real fight. For a sport legitimately based on the concept of fighting, and with so many huge muscled up machines with big egos and even bigger egos walking around there, you'd probably have expected that number to be a little bit higher. I sure as did.
The 70% of those guys in the company at the moment, they have never been in a real fight in their life. I mean,
Number 6, Adam Rose and Eva Marie bashed the wellness policy. Both Adam Rose and Eva Marie were among wrestlers hit in the wellness violation scandal of mid-2016, and both wrestlers came out with legitimate proof that the drugs they had been tested positive on and suspended for were 100% doctors approved and safe. In Eva's case, she claimed she had missed the deadline on warning WWE about her prescriptions by just 1 day, but for Adam Rose, he posted proof to Twitter immediately after his suspension that his drugs were for ADHD, doctor prescribed, and that WWE knew about them beforehand, so it really is not surprising that he stayed out of the company and showed no interest in coming back. Well, that and the bunny.
Come on, Zeb. Don't be a lemon. Be a rosebud!
Number 5, Dean screwed again. On his way out of the company, tension between Dean Ambrose and WWE could not have been higher. And once he was for sure on his way out, WWE really pulled some petty. The Nia Jax feud was just weird, but way far worse was the fact that WWE crafted an entire Shield documentary essentially surrounding Dean Ambrose leaving the company that aired very soon after he left. How much did he make for this entire special based around him, you may ask? $500. May seem like a decentish amount of money to some people, but this is WWE.
Yeah, if you show up to TV and they don't use you, you get $500. Or like, I think that's like what extras get.
Yeah,
that's
right.
like the minimum. $500 for the network special. Come on.
Number 4, Alex Riley blames Cena. A good few wrestlers over the years have pinpointed issues with big match Super Cena John over a potential ego trip that he had going on for a few years around 2009 to 2012. Supposedly these were the years prior to the humble hero we know now, and these years were synonymous with Cena getting into some backstage issues with a number of different wrestlers. Possibly the most noteworthy would be Alex Riley, because Riley was being groomed for superstardom. He was paired up with The Miz as something of a better than sidekick, and he was getting a solid push for a good amount of time. Rumors from Ryback stated that there was an altercation backstage that led to Cena getting Riley completely buried, having him taken away from The Miz and pewtered out in just a few months before being relegated to the jobber status, which Riley confirmed.
Oh, and now this! The STF locked in by John Cena. Alex Riley forced to tap out.
Number 3, calm down, Junior. Alright. There's a lot of bad shit on this list, and there's still an unfortunate more to come. So while we can, let's still have our fun, because this might be the greatest text message I've ever heard of. Jericho told a story on the Busted Open Radio about an incident where he goaded a crowd into throwing shit at him, and as this was during a DX reunion era back in 2009, there were a lot of glow sticks being thrown. Despite the fact that DX had already performed that night and didn't need people in the crowd with glow sticks, Hunter and Sean were pissed, and Steph herself was threatening Jericho for his actions, which he completely blew off because 1, it's Steph, who cares, and 2, he got the heat he was going for. So instead of dealing with her nonsense, he took it straight to Vince on the phone, cut a promo on this man for like minutes, and, well, this might really just be the greatest reaction text in history.
I said, bring it on, MRFer, come on. And he just texted me back with a little smiley face and said, calm down, Junior.
Number 2, RVD nearly told Vince to pick a hand. For those of you who don't know, Rob Van Dam's chilled out yet no nonsensical behavior on screen is exactly how the man is in real life. 99% of the time, he's the coolest dude, but piss him off and he had no fear taking a stand. After nearly having to quit the WWE due to exhausted burnout, Van Dam spotted 10 days off coming up on the calendar and knew that he could at least make it till then and then enjoy a nice vacation. But then Vince came to him about a tribute to the Troop show, which just so happened to be on the exact same 10 days. Van Dam flat out refused to go, but Vince, being Vince, was very persistent, to the point where RVD actually felt that Vince thought he could just straight up control him in whatever he did, to which RVD nearly gave Vince the legendary pick a hand, which, if you didn't know, is Rob Van Dam holding out 2 hands, telling the person he's pissed at to pick one, and then bashing them over the head with it because he's the coolest motherfucker I've never met.
I was thinking of telling him to pick a hand, and Paul Heyman told me not to. He said that would be a mistake.
Yeah, well, he's got a firm grasp of the obvious.
And number 1, Ashley's story. Ashley Massaro passed away not too long ago and unfortunately never got to tell her story, which is very unfortunate. I won't go into detail, but Ashley had documented the events that took place while in Saudi Arabia, and essentially she was in a medical room with some wrestlers before she alone was taken into a separate room, then drugged to the point of being conscious yet paralyzed, and then was brutally while completely helpless. The full story is horrifying, yet a fairly important read, so I encourage anyone who doesn't know it already to just look it up and read her own words, because I really don't want to go into more detail myself. Rest in peace, Ashley Massaro.
Ashley, you are the 2005 Raw Divas Champion.
And those are 10 shocking things former WWE wrestlers said about the company. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below after liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and notifications, ring that bell.